All right, it's Monday morning, already the 23rd of the month. We've got to say happy birthday to Debbie Densmore today, Terry Flintz, Justin Grant, Jason Akers, Sean Leghorn. Happy birthday, Sean. Marlon Paquette, Tracy Utton, Aaron Griggs, John Donahue on the list today. Let's see, Linda Papineau, Rob Bissett, Dawn Mason, and Terry Fulkerson, all celebrating birthdays. Tropical storm Henri, or as we like to say at our house, Hank, making landfall yesterday in Rhode Island, has not really impacted Vermont very much. However, the storm is expected to slowly head east from the New York area today, and officials are somewhat concerned that there could be some flooding, especially as the storm passes in southern Vermont. So state emergency management officials warning southern Vermont residents to be ready for possible hazards related to the storm. But all in all, it doesn't look anywhere near as bad as I think were afraid that it would be. We have with us this morning in the studio on this Monday morning, Jenna Koloski? I am saying that right. From Vermont Council on Rural Development. What a busy lady you have been. Oh my gosh.
It's been a busy week. Yeah, but glad to be here.
Yeah, we're so honored to have you here. You're ready for All In for Barrie, which is coming Wednesday.
Coming right up. Yeah, we're very ready for it. This has been in the works. We initially had planned this 18 months ago before the pandemic hit. We were going to kick this off, so it's been a long time coming.
More time to plan.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Right. So, I always kind of like to dumb it down here and ask you, what is the Vermont Council on Rural Development, and how did this all come to be?
Yeah. So, Council on Rural Development, we are essentially a neutral convener of public process in Vermont. And that means that we facilitate conversations both at the community and at the statewide level. But really the core of our work are these community visits, where we work with the community to help them bring folks together from across the city or the town to say, what's working well today, what are the challenges, but most importantly, what are your ideas for the future? Mm-hmm. And then we help communities to come to top priorities, because you can have a whole list of things you could do.
Sure.
But really the movement and momentum happens when you're able to narrow that down and find what excites people and gets people involved. So we help them to select priorities and then help them to build action plans and connect to resources to get those things done. So
this is a huge job.
Yeah, but it's also, we often like to say, we kind of have like the best job in Vermont, honestly. Like we get to know communities at this really deep level. And essentially our role is facilitator. We provide that platform for conversation. We help to run the sessions, but the content and where communities end up, it's all about local leadership and local community members. And that's always exciting to see kind of where a community takes this process. We've done about 80, I think this is like 81 of them in the last 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, all across the state, from Newport to Londonderry, Manchester. We're actually going to Bradford tonight for the second step in their process, and so we've worked all around.
So you've got multiple communities going on at the same time here.
There's a little bit of overlap. Usually it's one at a time. We had a bit of a waiting list, coming out of the at the point we are now in the pandemic, we had some that were kind of waiting. And so we have a couple that are happening at the same time. But usually it's one at a time, and then it's just one after another. And we've got a waiting list of communities kind of waiting to get involved too. Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously we're onto something here after 20 years.
Yeah, and I guess I should explain kind of where you asked where this came about. It's important to say we only work where we're invited by communities. So it's not like we have a list of like, here's the communities that need work. Right. Communities come to us and they say, we're at a point where we want to bring folks together. We want to think about the future. And in this case, the Barrie mayor and city council reached out to us and invited the process.
Wow. And that ball got rolling, you said pre-COVID?
That's right. Well before we knew that COVID existed, we came and met with the city council, shared what the process is all about. Ultimately, they decided that it was something they wanted to move forward with. they sent us a kind of formal request, and we're kind of on the waiting list of communities. And then when we finally were able to kick off the process, it was just about February 2020, and we all know, what happened next.
Sure.
And
Wow.
so the kickoff was going to be in early April of that year, and we had to put it on hold. But we're back Wednesday.
A lot of planning and a lot of organizing going into this, which is really a one-day event to try to put a lot of stuff on the table and have a look at it and generate some conversations. And we're not talking about conversations that are just staying inside city council chambers. We're talking about this is a real organic approach to pulling the community together and saying, hey, let's all talk about this. And anytime you do that, quite frankly, you're going to be hearing all kinds of stuff. And in some cases, very unedited.
Yep. Yeah. And we want to. I mean, that's really the goal of this event. You can think so this is step one of a 3-step process. And so step one is really, it's kind of exciting because it's really a brainstorming opportunity. No decisions are going to be made on the 25th. It's completely open to any ideas that can hit the table. And some are going to be ideas that have been heard before. Some are going to be brand new. It's going to be all kind of welcome in the mix.
Some might be a little far out, but
some might be a little far out, and that's okay. It's kind of a nice, as a facilitator, it's a nice event to be a part of because it's just anything goes. There's no we keep the meetings positive, but we also keep them businesslike, and we have a series of questions that we walk through. At the same time that these meetings are taking place, there's also an online survey available for people to provide input. There's written surveys at City Hall and at the library. And there'll be written surveys out on the 25th available. So we'll take all of that input and collect it together to bring back next month in September. And that's where the kind of rubber meets the road in terms of decisions around priorities. But the 25th is just all are welcome, all ideas are welcome, and it's intentionally open in that way.
Cody Morrison from Economic Development, or Barrie Area Development, is very engaged with us here. And we're going to be talking about this quite a bit here in the coming weeks and months.
Great. Yeah, Cody was on the topics on the flyer, substance use disorder, aging in Barrie, transportation, recreation. These all, again, don't come from us as facilitators. These come from community members. We brought folks together 18 months ago and then again last month, and Cody was on that team of folks that said, what are the things we should be discussing today? And these are meant to be kind of broad titles, but again, all ideas are welcome within that those titles.
And Steve Pappas from the Times-Argus is going to be very involved with this as well.
I hope so. Yeah, they did a show with Steve last week to talk about it, and the Argus has published a couple articles, which is great. We appreciate getting the word out in that way.
There's a lot of topics here, but before we start scratching the surface here, if folks want to be part of this, but they a little skeptical to or apprehensive to get together in public, is there a way that they can watch any of this on Zoom or on their computer in any way?
Yes. So there's all kinds of different ways to get involved. We recognize that there's a whole spectrum of safety and comfort levels with in-person meetings right now, and that's fair. You can imagine since we started planning this event, things have changed over time.
Right.
And so I do want to reassure folks that we're going to do everything we can to make the event safe. We are strongly encouraging masks in indoor settings. We're going to provide masks and sanitizer in each room. We're going to open windows, make sure there's ventilation, all that. But for folks that aren't comfortable being in person, we are now offering Zoom sessions during each of the times. So 2:30, 4:15, and 7. Open Zoom sessions. Anyone's welcome to join. We'll have skilled facilitators running each of those where people can share input, and it all goes into the same bucket. We don't weigh in person or Zoom more. It all goes into the same kind of well of ideas, and folks can find those on the All In for Barrie website.
Yes, the links for that, and as well as your Facebook page. You've got a Facebook event.
Yes, we got a Facebook event page. You can search All In for Barrie on Facebook. Information's there, and we'll share updates there as well. And then also, Tony Campos at CVTV,
yes,
right?
We know him well.
He's going to be streaming some of the sessions as well. And so we'll share the link on the Facebook page for
Wonderful.
those. And I believe he'll be streaming them on his page as well.
Yeah, cvtv723.org. So let's dive in here. I mean, a lot of us have seen this poster. We've been talking about it quite a bit, but there's a lot of stuff going on here, and a lot of it's happening at the same time. So you've got to pick and choose which ones you might want to have a look at and attend.
That's right. Yeah, and let me first say that all ideas are welcome in any of these forums. I know for some folks, a 2:30 forum is going to be hard to make it to. If you can only make it to a 7 o'clock forum and have an idea about aging in Barrie, share it in the 7 o'clock forum. The facilitators won't turn you away based on the idea. But yeah, that's the idea. I mean, you can think of it, I've done a lot of these now, and it's a really exciting feeling to be a part of these in a town, because it kind of feels like it's like half summit on the future of Barrie and half like celebration of Barrie.
Sure.
And so it's a lot of fun, a lot of energy.
We've come a long way in a very short period of time, this city.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we always, we have a lot of work to do as well. And I think most of us, fair to say, are well aware of the different areas where we are in great need of improvement. One of the topics here is addressing empty buildings. We've got a couple of storefronts that are right down from us here that have been an eyesore for a very long time.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's what was on the mind of the steering committee members when they chose that topic. And I think, one thing I really love about how these forums are structured, the first question we ask is about assets, like what's working well today. And just as you're saying, like, Barrie has come a long way and a lot's been accomplished, and there's an opportunity to celebrate that. Yeah. But then also, together in the room, name some of those challenges that kind of people have on their mind and want to get out there. And we won't solve the empty buildings challenge in this meeting, but the idea is that should that rise to the top as a priority for the community, when you get folks together with the same priority in the room, we'll ask people to sign up for, like, is this something you're interested in getting involved in, and then connect them to the resources that could support that work in a concentrated way. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of communities. It's really exciting to see what communities can do with that, even though it's a challenge. It's been around a long time. When you get that concentrated effort and focus on it and connect to the right resources. And right now, we are in an interesting time in Vermont where there are resources coming our way. We haven't, for communities, cities and towns that are ready, they could benefit quite a bit from the money coming into our state.
See, it seems like there's two different Vermonters. I'm generalizing hugely here, but there's those that are really craving change, aggressive change, much needed, overdue change, and other Vermonters who, as old school New Englanders in general, really don't embrace change as much. We're comfortable with what we're familiar with, whether it's our old boots, our old truck, whatever it may be, and this notion, this mentality, this mindset of, that's the way it's been for a very long time, and seems to be working just fine. So why complicate things and change them? Mm-hmm. And these two can create some friction against each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's something, yes, you're naming a dynamic that we see in communities all around the state for sure.
Right.
I mean, I think when I think about this process in particular, it's why it's important to get the word out and invite folks from all different parts of the community, because when you get people in the room, some folks that may have that mindset of like, well, that may not be something I want to see here in my city or in my town. When you get them in the same room together, people tend to like, there's some like wisdom in the group that tends to find a nice balance of like, what we really want is a vibrant community. We want a more connected community, whatever it is for that town. We want a place where our kids can grow up and feel safe and welcome and want to move back here when they're older. Community members can come from those different places. Mm-hmm. And when you get them all in the room together, end up in a place where they can find a collective, goal to work on. And it doesn't have to be, progressive change, small p, progressive change. Sure. In some communities, like we see communities take this in really different directions. Some do make some pretty significant changes. We worked with the town of Johnson years ago that had some really significant infrastructure challenges in their downtown. Sure. There were like crumbling bridges, roads falling apart. We brought the Secretary of Transportation with us. We brought congressional offices with us, and they had to sit there and look out the window all day and see these challenges. And so when it came time to set priorities, Johnson really kind of went big with priorities around full downtown redevelopment, burying power lines, lighting, really making that huge change in their downtown. And that's what the community agreed on. And they went for it, and they ended up accessing millions of dollars in federal funding to do this full streetscape redevelopment. Wow. That's one direction it can go. In other towns, they decide, really what they want to do is build more just connection among neighbors in the town. And they start, a concert series every week where a different group in town, holds the concert and invites everyone to come, or a school community partnership where they're building better relationships with their schools. And so the process doesn't need to go in a big, huge visionary direction, but some towns take it in that direction. But that's why it's important for everyone's voice to be heard, because, then you can kind of find that balance between folks that are really coming from different places. And we recognize that.
You mentioned connection among neighbors.
Yeah.
And I see one of the topics on the list here for the All In for Barrie Forum is aging in Barrie, which makes me think of the unfortunate news of Project Independence, which was umbrellaed by Gifford, which folded, which dissolved. It went away. It's closed. It's gone. And the elderly in and around Barrie, Barrie City and Barrie Town, there are so many folks who really genuinely relied on Project Independence right down the road here as a place to get together under one roof. The heat's on, fresh cup of coffee, some lunch, some sitting down, camaraderie, building puzzles together, and entertainment, local entertainment that would be in there. Just it was such a fantastic thing to have right here in Barrie, and it's gone. And these elderly folks that relied on that so much for something to do, a place to go, a place that they would leave happy, reuniting with folks that they haven't seen for a long time, and just be able to get together is no longer there. And that's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal. Yeah. And I've chatted with folks around Barrie who are just so disappointed that it's no longer there. And the question is, will there ever be another one? Will there ever be something else that will fit that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if the discussion of the loss of Project Independence is going to come up related to the Aging in Barrie Forum, but it should.
It probably will. I mean, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. I hadn't heard that. And that is, I think it's interesting because, we were chatting beforehand that these topics for the forums were chosen before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see when we brought the group back together a year and a half later to look at these. Not only were they still relevant, a lot of them were even more relevant.
Yeah, more so. Sure.
The pandemic has, for many communities, more than surface new problems, it feels like it's exaggerated, right?
Yeah.
Existing problems, looking at supporting students and families, like thinking about school, thinking about childcare, all these working parents that have juggled so much over the last year and a half.
And still are.
Yeah, I know Barry's had a lot of conversations around the diversity, equity, and inclusion piece that have been really challenging over the last year and a half. Transportation and recreation, like these are all things that substance use disorder, my gosh, like over the last year and a half have become even more prominent and challenging. And so,
and housing and homelessness is massive.
Yeah. And so I think the steering committee really walked away with this feeling of, maybe it's even in a more important time to be having this conversation now and to raise challenges, like you say. I can't imagine it won't come up in that forum that, Project Independence used to be this really important resource. What can we do as a community to, maybe it's not reinventing that, but what are the ways we can fill some of those needs and, address, the term isolation came up a lot in the steering committee. Like, how can we address that loneliness, isolation, build more connection, and that can be particularly challenging in a city of this size compared to some of the tiny towns we work with. Well,
it can also be challenging, just the fact alone that we've got 13 months of winter up here in this state.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, it's like we've got at least a good 6 months where if you're older, man, you're staying where it's warm.
Yeah.
Flat out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not just, we have a lot of communities that discuss that. Like, what are we doing in the winter to bring the community together? Like we have, I saw the sign for the concerts in Courier Park, during the summer. And a lot of communities have these events and are getting really innovative this summer, especially with outdoor events. And, how do those carry forward and how do we continue to foster that connection?
And there's even more concern now with what's going on with this Delta variant and how that's going to play out. And
Right. Yeah.
How all of this, everything that I see in this poster, will be affected by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it gets worse, and
absolutely. So it'll be fascinating to see what comes up. You can imagine after this event. So with the surveys, this event, sometimes we even hold other forums. Like we try and do like a youth forum when we're able to. We collect it all together. You end up with like a thick packet of ideas. So it's like 13 hours of testimony from the community in all. And so you end up with this thick packet. And then our job as the facilitator between now and September 15th, which is the next one, we take all those ideas and do kind of like a cluster analysis. Because you can imagine, something that comes up in aging and Barrie may also come up in like recreation, arts, and culture. And what we do is kind of make those connections and compile them together and bring back a list of the big picture ideas next month. And that will be the opportunity to really dig in as a community and kind of walk through, what are those on that list of maybe 25 that we want to prioritize today. So that's really where we get into the decision making on September 15th.
We know that a lot of folks are going to be working during these times. These forums kick off at 2:30?
2:30 is the first one. Yep.
On Wednesday. But if you're not able to attend them, once again, we want to reiterate here that you can go back and watch them.
Yep, you can, and you can continue to share ideas afterwards as well, whether you attend them or not. We leave that survey open for a couple weeks after the event. So if an idea, even if you attend the forums, an idea comes to you later, you can add in thoughts that way, or just by contacting us. vtrural.org is our website. You can reach out to us and still continue to share ideas. And again, we recognize like not everyone's going to be able to come to a 2:30 or 4 o'clock forum. The dinner's at 6. Hopefully that works for folks to come after work. And then that 7 p.m. forum, anything's welcome, especially, in those Zoom forums. It really is like an open bucket. Any and all ideas on the future of Barrie, we'll open it up. So I hope folks aren't limited by, if they're not able to attend a couple of the earlier in the day forums.
Our Deputy Chief Joe Aldsworth is very involved with this and sent us an email here with some changes that might be taking place as a result of COVID. And one of those is and I want you to talk about those, but I know one of them is the dinner.
That's right. Yes. So we've been working on the dinner. I certainly heard some concerns in the community about in-person meetings, which we understand.
Sure.
And want to do our best to continue to move forward. Our Renita Marshall here locally is the chair of this process, and we've been in touch with the mayor and have all agreed that we feel like we can move forward in a way that is accomplishing the goal, but still safe and offers some alternatives. So, we're going to have masks and sanitizer and all that in the meeting rooms, opening up windows, fans, doing the best we can, but also offering those Zoom times at each time slot. At the dinner, we've been working with the Elks. There are options to eat indoors. Folks can wear a mask, pick up their food, and eat at tables indoors, but there'll also be an outdoor option too. So people could come in and pick up food and then go outside with their meal if they feel safer that way. And so that's always an option for folks.
Jenna Koloski is with the Vermont Council on Rural Development. She's our guest on Aired Out this morning, talking about the All In for Barrie Community Forum in the Granite City this coming Wednesday, August 25th. Forums begin at 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm imagining that you've got a pretty good staff in place that's going to be all boots on the ground here, trying to compile all this information.
I smile when you say that because we're tiny. We're a tiny staff, but we're growing actually. So we've got a few staffers that are our lead facilitators and do all the kind of background logistics. We'll be a team of 5. But then we also bring with us a visiting team. So I mentioned that one of the goals in this process is connecting the community with resources that can help accomplish these goals. So what we do, we met with the steering committee the next day, we look at these topics and we say, who are the top level, like visionary leaders in the state or regional or federal leadership that could join us for the day. And they have very clear instructions. They're not there to give speeches. They're not there to tell the community what to do or to list all the things they can do for Barrie. They're really listeners in this role. Some of them facilitate for us. So we have, Ben Doyle from Preservation Trust is helping to facilitate the conversation on downtown vitality. And we bring in other folks that can help us lead those conversations, but really mostly the team is there to listen and then share some reflections at the end from what they're hearing. And then they are basically signing on as resources to Barrie as the city moves forward. So once priorities are chosen, we let the visiting team know, here's what Barrie decided to go forward with. What's your advice? What are the resources? What can you do to support this work? And so they'll be joining us. That's a team of about 25 that'll be here in Barrie for the day, attending these forums alongside the community and really here to support the work.
Have you ever heard, that's a lot to cram into one day. Maybe this should be spread out over 2 or 3 days.
We've heard all kinds of different feedback in all 80 of these that we've done. But, the full process is spread out over 3 months. And we really find we have kind of tweaked the model over the years, and we've really found we've tried different times of day. We tried, if you spread it out over a couple different weeks, but we've really found that this kind of concentrated summit celebratory type atmosphere, it's a powerful day,
Yeah.
and almost all communities have a really strong turnout. You really. It's kind of a powerful way to kick off the process. And then, more work happens over the next couple of months. But between this, the surveys, other kind of focus forums that we do, it feels like we really do a full 360 and hear the kind of full spectrum of ideas on the table.
So who's the moderator? Who's the person that's kind of hosting all of these?
So, most of them are facilitated and led by VCRD staff because that's, we aren't experts on anything except for facilitation. So that's what we bring to the process. That's why we bring that visiting team who really are experts in transportation and, elderly support and services, diversity, equity, inclusion, housing. We're the experts in facilitation. So Paul Costello is our executive director. This will, in fact, be his last community visit. He's retiring in October, and so he'll be with us for this one, though, as a most experienced facilitator in the state. I lead some of the sessions, and then a couple of my other colleagues will facilitate as well. And then we have partners that we've just worked with for years that come with us. Ted Brady, who used to be deputy secretary at Agency of Commerce and is now the head of League of Cities and Towns, often comes to facilitate with us. Ben Doyle at Preservation Trust, Rebecca Ellis from Congressman Welch's office. This team of strong facilitators that we know we can rely on to run a business-like meeting will come and lead as well. But primarily it's the Council on Rural Development.
Some of these forms, frankly, are maybe going to be fueled with more emotion than others.
Yeah.
So heads up to whoever from Vermont Council on Rural Development is going to be doing the substance use and disorder one.
Yeah.
Because that's a really... I might dare to say maybe the biggest issue in this city. I mean, it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And it's, many say, is getting worse, and we don't have a solid grasp on it. It's a runaway train in some regard. And there's a massive amount of concern about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing it in communities all over the state. Many communities are putting this on the flyer for conversation, and it's a tough conversation. I'm facilitating that one, in fact.
Are you?
Yeah, it's a challenging conversation to facilitate. Honestly, it's also some of the most powerful conversations I've had in communities. We had, thinking back to Swanton, we worked with Swanton in 2015. They put this on the flyer, and it was one of the most powerful community conversations I've been a part of. I mean, in that room, and this kind of highlights the importance of having all kinds of different voices in the room. In that room, we had police officers, we had service providers, supporting people in recovery. We had people in recovery. We had a mom who lost her son to addiction, and so it was just really powerful for those folks to get together and share the challenge that they've experienced, and to think together about what could, not what should they be doing to help us, what should the select board do, what should the state do, what should DC do. It's about what can we do as a community. And it was challenging and it was emotional, but it in the end, the community actually ended up prioritizing building a kind of local community prevention team that really focused on not so much the recovery, because they felt like there's a structure in place, we have resources in place, we need to do a better job connecting people to them.
Sure.
But they focused on the on prevention, on building community connection, providing youth activities, and they ended up starting a summer camp for youth in Swanton, and really getting organizations in town, the library, the rec program, the village and town partnering around these things, and kind of seeing that as a collective goal. The schools, seeing it as a collective goal. And
this isn't anything that's we're going to snap our fingers and it's going to go away quickly.
No, right.
We're going to have to chisel away at this for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important point. This process, we know this isn't a silver bullet that's going to solve all the problems of the city of Barrie, but it's a starting point. It's a starting point for people to decide, here's the goal we want to work on, and to really come together and start to get practical about it. Sometimes in communities, and I'm sure you probably see this, especially leading conversations like this in Barrie, that sometimes communities can get a little circular about certain problems that kind of go around and around and don't get to a place where you're saying, okay, but what do we do? What's the action? And that's our goal. What we don't want is to just create a plan that sits on the shelf. It's really about now that we've identified these, maybe we've known for years that these are the problems, but what are the things that we want to start to take steps to chisel away at them? And so, no, it doesn't. Success doesn't happen, on August 26th. It's often, depending on the priority, it's a process.
Will all this, be transparent? Will it all come out? Will there be a website where we can break everything down, where we can see, will there be a book printed, something that we can see, hold, read? I'm talking about months from now.
Yeah, great question. Yes, we definitely provide that. So as we think through this process over the next few months, so brainstorming kind of wide end of the funnel on August 25th and beyond with surveys, September 15th will be that prioritization evening. So we'll all get together. That rather than broken up, we get together in one room, we put the ideas on the wall, we walk through a process for people to share, here's what I think is most impactful, what I think is most actionable, have a chance to kind of wrestle with what's most important to prioritize. That night you end up with priorities, maybe in a city like Barrie, maybe it's 4, priorities for action. In Bradford tonight, they're going to choose 3. It kind of depends what a community would want to do. And then we ask people to sign up for task forces that would work on these things. So we come out of that meeting with new task forces, priorities, volunteers. In October, that'll be the final step in the process, which will be action planning, getting those groups together for the first time, saying, what are the steps we need to take to move towards this goal today? What are the resources that are out there? We bring another team with us of, I talked about the kind of visionary folks that come in the first one. On the action planning, we bring people who have grants that they could provide to this work. They have worked with communities before. They've got the tools. They can even staff the work in an ongoing way in support of the priority. So that's in October. After that, we take all of that input, everything, all the notes from the sessions on Wednesday, all the potential ideas for action, and then ultimately the action plans, the list of resources, contact info for the visiting and resource teams, and we put that into a final report that comes back to Barrie. And we see people use it in different ways. My favorite thing is when I come back, St. Johnsbury we worked with a while back, they hired a new town manager and assistant town manager kind of coming right out on the back end of the process. And about 6 months later, I went and met with the new assistant town manager. He had his report and it was Post-it notes and, little earmarks and kind of was using it as a guide, as he started this new job. And I love to see that.
Incredible.
I like when towns put it in their, pieces of it in their town plan. It's up to the community how they want to use that report. But that's just a way of us to provide, everything. We also share that through the process. So after the 25th, we'll share the notes, we'll share that list of ideas. And so people can kind of follow along throughout the process, even if they can't be at every step of the way.
What happens if one of these forums is, going a little long?
You know what? It won't. and that's because that's what we bring is the facilitation. We are, to me, it happens all the time where we schedule a meeting that ends at 9 or whatever. And in some communities, you're used to that select board meeting that goes on and it doesn't ever seem to wrap up. That's not us.
Yeah.
If we're going to end at 9, we end at 9. We move quickly. You'll notice there's not a lot of break time between these forums.
Sure.
We end at 4. We're in the next one at 4:15. Dinner's 6 to 7. We're out the door. We're on to the next forum. That's important to us. Like I said, it's visioning. It's fun. It's celebratory. It's also business, and that's important to us. So
you have to keep that schedule.
Yeah, we track the time. We keep the schedule. We manage the sessions to that time. And the other thing we do, and I think this is important, you mentioned some of these are going to be tough conversations. It's important to us that the forums foster, we want people to share everything on their mind. We want to get it all out there. What we won't let happen is for any one group, person, perspective to dominate and take over any of the conversations. That's what we can do as facilitators is make sure that people's input are heard. And then we say, thank you, we've got it.
Yeah.
Next person.
Exactly.
And we're not going to let we work on behalf of the full community. And to do that well, we need to make sure that everyone can weigh in. And that, if there's, there's always the person in the room that wants to answer everything that comes up. We tried that before. And
Sure.
Here's why that doesn't work. And we'll end that kind of thing pretty quickly. Because, we stick to our agenda.
There's
Respectfully,
there's
exactly.
many of us that could do a whole heap of complaining about the current situation and how it's been in the past and how nothing's happening. But this seems like what y'all are trying to do here is pull people together and make some constructive, not destructive, plan to go forward, to really come up with something solid here. No fooling around. We really want to get these issues changed.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can imagine when you have a set of topics like this, people's tendency, because honestly, it's easier to do, is to want to describe the challenges. And we want to do that. We block in time to do that. But at a certain point, you got to turn the conversation and say, and I, when we're facilitating, we will name that in the room. If someone's kind of going back to challenges, we'll say like, that sounds like a challenge. Like, what do you think we should do? Like, what's possible in terms of addressing that? And really push people to get thinking in that way of, we get it. Like, we know there are challenges and we hear that and we want that all to be out there. And we'll often ask, like, what's the elephant in the room here? Like, what does everyone here know that isn't being said? Because those things in communities exist and we get it out there, but then we turn a corner really quickly. And the bulk of each of these sessions is focused on ideas and opportunities for action. And we really push people to think creatively about what's possible.
So for a town or a community in the state of Vermont, watching, listening right now, thinking, man, I don't know if we've ever done this before. Maybe we have. Maybe it's been a long time. Maybe we should reach out to the Vermont Council on Rural Development and find out, can we do this in our town? Simple to do.
They can reach out to us anytime. Yeah, we hear from communities probably once every couple of weeks that are looking for some way to bring people together. They can my email address is jenna@vtrural.org, or you can find us on our website, vtrural.org. And we always want to hear from communities, and we work with towns in different ways. We have this kind of full community visit process, but in some communities, we've done kind of shorter, more targeted conversations where we've facilitated around a certain, if the community's already identified, we want to work on, I'm thinking of Chelsea, where they were working on a community store in their village center, and they wanted to have some facilitated conversations around that. We've done some more kind of abbreviated facilitative processes, but because this is something that communities are really looking for these days, like an outside, person who can be that, balanced, they could provide that balanced platform for community conversation. So yes, we always are open to hearing from communities. Like I said, there is a bit of a wait list. We're often kind of thinking with communities about maybe even a year or more.
That says a lot about you guys.
Well, I hope so. I think there's a reason that there is that demand, and I think some of it's maybe us, but a lot of it is like, I think communities are just really grappling with, how do we move forward? How do we narrow in? I think you see a lot of communities that you think about I don't know how many folks are familiar with what a town plan looks like, but it's a long, list of all the different things that are important to a community. And so it's about going from that list and thinking about what are the things that we want to start to move today.
Right. One more time with your email. You said yes. Jenna,
Jenna, @vtrural.org.
Okay. We're putting that up here. Is that all right to put up here?
Yes, please. Yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
So if folks want to contact you with any questions or more, let's mention that there's been a change on the schedule here. Mm-hmm. All of the forums that were going to be taking place at the Masonic Lodge have been moved.
They're going to be at the Barry Opera House. So our 3 locations throughout the day, the Aldrich Public Library will host a series of forums. The Barry Opera House will host a series, and then the Church of the Good Shepherd, right at the end of Church Street over there, will be hosting a series of forums as well. And so people can, plop themselves down in the library for the full day. They can bounce around to different rooms, whatever works. And then the dinner 6 to 7 at the Elks Lodge or outside.
Now, what if, so we're into the, we're after dinner now, mom and dad home from work, we got the kids. How can we do this if we have kids?
Yeah, great question. So at the library, they are offering childcare and programming for kids. That is just for families that are attending forums at the library.
Right.
That's an important note. So yes, either, and as a parent of a young kid, I know the challenges of getting out to community events. I would either, attend that forum and take advantage of that childcare, or always welcome to, put kids down to bed and join that evening Zoom forum too.
And if you need transportation, Casey's helping out with that, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's a really helpful partnership with Capstone Community Action. Casey has helped out with folks that are kind of looking for a way to at least get down to the forums. And so her email and number on the flyer there, and she can, she's helping the best of her ability to connect folks with rides.
We will put that information up here as well.
Excellent.
But the bottom line is, if you're listening on the fly here, is 272-8418. If you need transportation help, Capstone will take care of you. Okay. We're trying to eliminate any and all excuses, if you will, for lack of a better term, to attend these, to be engaged with this.
Yeah.
We've got the child care taken care of. We've got the food taken care of. We've got the transportation taken care of. That's it.
Yeah, that's the
it.
goal. Like we, like I said, we've done this process a lot. We know that it can be hard to get to a meeting like this, and that not everyone is able in the same way to participate.
Right.
And so we want to do the best we can to reduce any barriers to participation and make sure that even if you can't even make it to this day at all, that there are ways to share input. It's not perfect. We're always working to improve participation and engagement, but we're kind of doing the best we can to, and I should say it's a lot to the credit of our steering committee and community members, like Lauren at the library, and like the folks at the Elks who are putting the dinner on, and the mayor has just been sending a mailing out. The city sent a mailing out to everyone in town. Like, our community partners are really critical to getting the word out and really making this possible.
Well, we're honored to be part of the promotional part of this whole event, and to have you in here with great respect. Thank you so much for carving out some time. I know you're just incredibly busy right now, getting ready for Wednesday, but we really want to encourage folks to be part of this in whatever way they can.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the bottom line message is all are welcome to participate. All, these types of processes, community engagement, community leadership, it's only as strong as the people who participate.
That's
so
right.
We want to make sure we're hearing from the full spectrum of community members, and then those outcomes, the priorities will be stronger and be more grounded and connected to community members in Barrie. So that's important.
If you have concerns or complaints or anything, this is your opportunity right here. This is it right here. So don't, blow all this off and then complain in the weeks to follow. I mean, voice your concerns or your complaints or your ideas, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I know our chair, Renita, has been, if people post a complaint or something on Facebook, she's saying, bring it to the forums. And I say, yes, we're happy to hear complaints. We're happy to hear ideas.
Sure.
You may be asked to then think about a strategy or idea.
Right.
But we want to get it all out there. So certainly anyone that's got, something on their mind, thinking about the future of the city, thinking about something that could be done better. Yeah, this is the time.
This is the opportunity.
Yeah.
Can you come back on the show at some point?
I would love to. Yeah, maybe after this event or after priorities are chosen, I'd love to kind of think about next steps.
A little recap, maybe?
Sure.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We'll stay in touch.
Great.
Thank you, and thanks to Steve Pappas and Tony Campos and Mayor Lucas Herring. Who else am I forgetting here? Joe Aldsworth, you and your whole team.
all of our locations in town that are hosting us.
Steve McKenzie, our city
Yeah,
manager.
of course, Steve's been critical to all this work. Yeah, I'm sure there's a full list of people that I'm not thinking to thank, but it's certainly been a team and group effort with a lot of excellent community leaders that are making it possible. So.
Yeah. And, of course, Aldrich Public Library, Barry Opera House, Dan Casey over there, the Church, the Good Shepherd. Without you all being part of the team here and being active members of the team, we wouldn't be able to pull this off. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming in here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to coming back.
First podcast for Vermont Council on Rural Development?
Maybe so.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's great. You guys are doing great work, and thank you again. Aired Out is brought to you by FGB Theaters, retirementvt.com, Aeromed Essentials, Vermont Custom Woodworking, the Barry Montpelier Times Argus, Donnybrook Fight Promotion, Wright Electric, Fontaine Forestry and Millwork, Gauthier's Quality Grounds and Maintenance, K&W Tire, Emsley's Florists and Gifts in the Blanchard Block here in Barry, Granite City, MMA, and Barslow Construction. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks to the Vermont Council on Rural Development and Jenna Koloski, our guest this time around on Aired Out. Don't forget, tomorrow, Tuesday, 9 a.m., we're talking poker with Dave Sawyer. It's going to be an interesting show tomorrow. Steve Pappas and Tracy Lewis from the Barry Partnership will be with us on Wednesday and Thursday. Chris Martin is going to be sneaking in before he sets himself on stage at Courier Park for the Thursday concert. He'll be wrapping up things on Thursday, and I so much look forward to it. Thank you all so much. Be well, take good care, and we'll see you soon.